is through my own mechanism of trial and error, allowing the fabrics themselves to really, drive the vehicle. And I'm just more or less the host to that and just applying the paint in the format where it somewhat, to me, feels balanced.
The pieces behind you, the crocheted square afghans and things, you have several of them here. Those are neat because that's a collaboration with someone else.
And that's a lot of the work that I do is how I view it. A lot of work is pre-existing to some format where it was functional and somebody dedicated, or someone's grandmother dedicated a considerable amount of time for it, and then it then is placed at a thrift store, someone gives it to me, and it's kind of my obligation or job to kind of rejuvenate it into and recharge it into something that has some prominence, and it can be somewhat used again. And so to me, I feel that that's kind of the role that I play, is just taking this and trying to conserve it in a way that it's palatable again.
Yeah, you revalue it. It makes you readjust.
And it's all an experiment too. It's like I don't really know what I'm doing. It's just you just have to continue doing. Like there's times like some of these hatch marks and things. I think this is an older painting. I probably wouldn't have done that, but it's all a learning curve as well. So.
Do you go out and find like old Afghans and things?
I do, and I go to thrift stores, but I have a stipulation: I can't pay more than $2 or $3. And I have a lot of people that just give me fabrics, and I have a whole storage, a whole bunch of fabrics that I have that are just waiting to be utilized as a painting. So, like a lot of these fabrics I've used. These are all things that I've been slowly stretching, like. I'll get these at thrift stores for $1. I'll pour paint on these and repaint the old embroidered fabrics. So these are kind that I've already just glued. I'll pour paint on these and then I'll go back in. Like these are like that Ramparts, those peacocks.
Yeah.
So this is one that I just started.
Oh,
I'll take like a piece of wood and glue it on there. And it's taking, just erasing away the past connotations and starting from scratch, like a paint by number almost, and repainting it. This is one. This is going to be a good one. This is a big peacock. This is one that are these beautiful flowers. So I started doing that, but they're so time consuming that I have to really be in the right frame of mind to be able to sit down and do it. Usually I watch Browns games or some type of sporting event to pass the time, and then I kind of sit there and work on those. I have to really be able to be seated and be able to do that. It's not as, very, with these larger paintings, you can make a real big mess and just slop paint around. These ones here are a little more honed, really dedicate some precision.
It's neat, you're taking like cross stitch and the crocheted things, and which were predominantly women making them, sitting around, like instead of watching TV, that's what they, that's how they spent their time and free time making these. Especially the cross stitch, where as much time went into that cross stitch as will go into the painting on top of it that you're going to do.
Well, and there's also a underlying symbolic connotation because a lot of these were old napkins and things that were supposed to be family heirlooms and passed down. So, there's in essence a responsibility where I'm trying to use these things. They're already charged with this information, and I'm trying to reevaluate them into a more contemporary aesthetic, but using these things that were made to be functional and something that was lineage based and passed down to generations, and trying to create artwork out of these, kind of dusting them off and create something new. And that's a lot of the work that I do. That's whether it's sculpture or painting. It already has that kind of infusion of using something that was cast off and trying to kind of reconfigure it into something that's new and different, but still kind of holding true to what it initially was.
Yeah, I don't think people. I think people sense that depth to the pieces.
And I've had sometimes where people, I've had some shows of these, especially early on when I started these, where they were like, well, how could you do that with someone's grandmother's thing, and then you just threw a bunch of paint on it? I'm like, well, one, it shouldn't have been in the thrift store for $1 if this was something that was so valuable. And then, then there's a question, like you're saying, with the collaboration, is this really your own work? And I think it is, because you're trying to take something, and it's kind of, something that evaluate it into something new. And with a lot of the work, I think that that's more creative than trying to start from scratch with a blank canvas. I find that boring. When I tried, like initially earlier when I would paint, I just didn't like that because I like to have something there and something that you can then evaluate and go in another direction. Like this was just a monotone fabric. And it's just trying to find the right, pattern and then go from there with the different hues and pigments to create something that's aesthetic. Before it was just a very pedestrian, blanket or not throw rug, but, blanket or something, bedspread. And then now I was able to just glue it on an old door and then just start to pull out patterns just based on colors. And a lot of it's, it's not the color that I'm using, it's the color relationship of the adjacent colors that really brings out the actual structure. So I'm going back and forth with placing different colors next to each other until, sometimes I'm really locked and I can't figure out, how to finish a painting, and then you just change one thing and then it all fits together. And it's just being lucky, I guess, to try to get that appropriate pattern and color scheme.
You've always worked in that kind of technique. Have things changed at all, like either with your process or your drive since you moved out here?
It's less, it's quieter to some degree. There's more going on, and it just seems more balanced. And I think that there's always, you have to paint, you have to dedicate some hours each day to painting, and it's just something that's just fulfilling that you need to do. Like some people have to do yoga or work out. I think in my case, it's just I really need to create something dedicate some semblance of the day of just creating some work. Obviously, there's other, it's just how you base and what you define as work. You putting in work. So I usually try in the morning or night try to dedicate an hour to just coming up here and painting. Because it's important. Just no paintings get finished if you just toil and think about it. It's the actual being able to put the time in. So that a lot of with these, it's layeration, is placing layers on top of layers, letting them dry, and then continuing the process. So some of these paintings I've just stopped. They're not really going anywhere. I'm not comfortable in the direction. I'll just, set them aside in the back burner and then kind of readdress them later on.
So I've seen your work for a long time, and it's interesting. And I think that the focus that you talk about, I've noticed a change in your work in this latest group of work, and I think that's what it is. It's focus that changes. And it's as artists age, it's always interesting to see how they change their work, whether it's based on, reimagining themes or refocusing on things they started when they were younger, and sometimes it's based on change. This moving out here, I think, is
just mindset, and my earlier works are more tedious with these creating these hatch marks and things. And I think as you see other arts, this is my own personal thought, though. I see a lot of old artists that I follow, and I see their work later in their life. It's more looser. It's not so precise. I think you're more comfortable where you're not so really trying to adhere and make every line perfect. I think that you have, as you mature as an artist and get older, you tend to be more looser with it. So I think that that's important, and a lot of the work that I do, with the sculpture and paintings, it's always, it's very physical. There's a very bright, vibrant hues involved in it with the sculptures and things, and those are all things that are kind of conjoined and interconnected, and how it really, the work, tends to really walk hand in hand together by using those factors. I feel are important, and that's what really helps shape, the end result of the work.
Right, I think you'll see Dana's work on the 15th and 16th at Ramparts Gallery.